We are having a very special edition of One Dish, One Mic today. Student ambassadors of gender studies at Brock University are joining us right now. I'm being joined by Destini and Maryam. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to get a little bit into who you are and what you're bringing to this conversation, but I really want to front load this conversation with talking about missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, Two-Spirit, and other groups of people made to be vulnerable. I flipped a coin, and Maryam, I'm just going to ask you right off the hop, why is this topic important to you?
First of all, hi. It was nice meeting you guys and whoever's listening to us. This topic was important because me as an immigrant person who came to Canada recently back in 2019, there was no information, nothing close about anything regarding Indigenous people, and specifically the missing and murdered Indigenous woman, girl, and Two-Spirit people. So therefore, this topic was something that I wanted to hold on and spread awareness about it, which we have quite achieved that goal at our university. And a matter of fact, we did our very first event regarding this matter at the Brock University on the 11th of Feb. And we had around 40 to 50 people joined us, and we did this. And the main goal was to spread awareness and why it matters, because as we know, media does not cover this. Social media doesn't cover any of this. News doesn't cover any of this. Matter of fact, that's why they are missing, because they are not being told about them. And we were just talking about this, me and Destini, thinking that if this was a white woman that was gone missing, they would have been on the news, matter of fact, on the alarms that goes on our phone for missing people, and they would have been out, public would have found them, police would have found them within a matter of hours or days. But comparing to Indigenous women and girls, when they go missing, first of all, they're never found. But if luckily they're being found, they're not with us. So unfortunately, it's a very sad reality, and we had to take this upon our hands and do what we can do as an ambassador of gender studies and work toward this.
I appreciate you talking about that, Maryam. Destini, I wonder if you could build off of some of Maryam's points, but also talk to you.
Yeah. So when me and Maryam were first discussing this event, we were given the opportunity to pick any event in February. And when we were discussing this, we just thought the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit would just be, we were able to give such like a space for that. I mean, February 14th, they have the march. And when we were given this, platform to basically have this in our school, we thought that this would make the most sense. We wanted to educate like our fellow peers, and we were so thankful just to be able to host this event. We had Dr. Lynn come and speak, and honestly, we had anti-social singers. They came in as well for this event. It was just such a moving event, and we learned so much. I mean, it really just took us aback. I mean, I can go on and just building off Maryam's point, but just being there and just hearing everything that what's going on, it was just so impactful. Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think another reason we wanted to do this is because we have been here in Brock for almost 3 years now, finishing over our third year of uni.
Yeah.
And it was something that I've never heard they're doing a event regarding this matter, or any kind of awareness regarding this matter, which kind of pushed us to do this event for the sake of awareness. And as a student and as someone who is new to Canada, as I still consider as a newcomer, because I came here just 2019. It's not that long ago. For me, it just feels like yesterday. So therefore, coming to Canada at this age and going through so much of learning and studying and getting to know who the real Canadians are and how they're being treated out here is just honestly shocking to me as an immigrant, because I never ever thought that I go to a country that real people are being treated like this. And I was wondering how would an immigrant would be treated, because the colonizers, who are the real immigrants, they actually just pretend that nothing is concerning for them. It's just that they just say, okay, suck it up, whatever it is, you have to deal with it. But we wanted to just do this to spread the awareness to the people of our university, because we have to start from somewhere small. We don't have a big platform. We're just university students for now. And if we had a bigger platform and we could have done it, we would. But here we are now with you guys sharing this. Maybe we can spread this even further to the public out there who can listen to this, who can learn to this, and matter of fact, put their own opinions in it. Because why not? They deserve to be known. They deserve to be out here and learn about everything that's going on, because news decides that they will be biased towards certain things, certain race, certain people. So why are we not saying anything? Because again, at the end of the day, news outlets and social media, they're sharing things just because they have people. But if the people are standing up for the people that needs to be stand up for, I think we can do much better.
I mean, also just going off Mary's point, I mean, why are we speaking up on this and nothing is being done is also another thing. I mean, the 231 calls to justice, that's something that we've learned about in our class. And the fact that I had to learn this in university. I mean, I have been in Canada. I born and grew up here, and my parents are immigrants. They're from Trinidad. And I was born and grew up in Canada. I grew up in this small town. And all throughout elementary school, through high school, why has this not been brought up in classrooms? Why have we not gone more extensive into the history of Canada? Because that's what it is. Like, why have I not known more until I came to university and took classes on Indigenous learning, on Indigenous education? It's like honestly really frustrating.
Oh, it is.
I find it very frustrating, very angry actually.
And like, imagine being born and raised here and still not hearing anything. Then how can you blame someone who is just new here? And matter of fact, I had to take ESL classes because when I came here, I did not speak a word of English. And I had to go take ESL classes, and ESL teachers never ever in my life taught me that, mind you, English is just a colonizer language here, It's not the real Canadian language from the Canadian people, which I consider them, which they are, the Indigenous people.
Yeah.
And throughout all this years of genocide, which their goal was initially to remove these people, which to this day they're going through it, remove their people and remove their language from the entirety of Canada and basically America continent, and giving them no platform, and no, especially for the women, because I think most of the time they wanted to go and like speak out about it, and they were just gone missing and they've been shut quiet because of the threats, because of the whatever that they had to go through for this reason. And I think as an immigrant myself, I would be very much honored to stand for the Indigenous women and girls, because at the end of the day, I'm not myself an Indigenous, and I think I can do something for them that could bring some changes into their life. And it's worth it for that, because the amount of fightings they have done for all these years, I think they deserve to be honored. They deserve to be put upright where they belong.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And again, as someone who's raised in Canada, I just find it very, very frustrating. But I was really honored to be able to host the event with Maryam. I mean, we were just hosts, but the event could have not happened without the Indigenous presence that we had in this event. I mean, it was honestly just very eye-opening.
Yeah, we had Dr. Lynn Trudeau, who was one of our speakers, and she brought her knowledge into this, which helped a lot of our guests there, which was mostly student. And I really appreciate them being there, because they're going for something for hoping to learn something new. And I sure that they learn a lot about the Indigenous woman and the missing murder Indigenous women and girls in general, because also Dr. Lynn Trudeau also brought up her own personal loss that I had with one of her cousins at the time, which was very heartbreaking for her as well. And that connection just made very, very emotional to everybody.
Yeah.
Because if we think of it, that could have been if that happened to one of us and we lose our cousin or sister to one of this kind of event, we would not be quiet. That would not heal us at all, and especially not anything being done to it. is just it's a very like frustrating, very upsetting, and very topic that would hurt us for years. And I can imagine how hurtful that was for people of Indigenous that have been suffering for such a long time.
I'm gonna pause it here just for a second, Sean. After the break, I wonder if you can bring us back and add some thoughts into this conversation. We are talking to Destini Ramphal and Maryam Nazari, two student ambassadors of gender studies, from a very important perspective. It's not enough if Indigenous people alone advance this work. We need all of our friends, allies, people that understand in a good way how to advance this. You're listening to One Dish, One Mic on right here on 610, or maybe you're watching us on the internet. Let's hit a pause and we'll be back. Okay, we're back. Sean, wonder if you have any thoughts.
First off, I really appreciate your perspective that you're bringing in, and I do sincerely applaud all the work that you're doing. A lot of times on One Dish, One Mic, we often come across as arrogant, as we rightfully should, being that we're subject matter experts. And sometimes there's a disconnect between like the educator and the educatee, if you will. So I really want to bring in your perspective of not knowing our educational system in and of itself. What would you say that the system needs to do to highlight these issues, right? You're not familiar with and this is specifically to you, Maryam, you're not familiar with our education system. How could Canadians better educate themselves on missing and murdered Indigenous women?
Honestly, I've had meetings and when I was in high school, because they were like, I had to push for this, not only for Indigenous, but any people are there being injustice with them. For example, for Black people, we had a whole meeting with because I grew up, like I had a school in Hamilton, and we had to go with the HWDSB and talk with them that they should bring some kind of course, mandatory course that students should take about these people and should learn about them. And matter of fact, they were deciding on it, and that was unfortunately my last year, and I graduated. And since then, I was not able to go back and see what's going on, what's the process. And of course, once you graduate, they don't really consider you back, come in and talk about it, unless you become someone, which that's what my goal is, to become someone and go back with them. And yeah, well, that was my idea of we should have, because for as a younger age, they should go through a whole class of studying for at least 1 year, every grade that they do. And it's really important to learn. We're not saying that they have to learn all this just in 1 grade and get it done. For example, in elementary school, you can learn about some portion of it, not maybe the traumatizing things, because as a kid, you don't want to deal with that, even though the kids themselves have dealt with it. But I think we can prevent that. We don't have to pass the trauma of our own onto our next generations, but we can teach them. Teaching is always good. Learning is always good. So therefore, elementary grades could have 1 class of Indigenous that they have to take. It's a mandatory class. And the next grade, you can go to middle school, another better version of it. And high school, then you can get to real thing, because after high school, you're going to the real world. You should know all these stuff. You can't just be there as sugarcoating things for your people. So therefore, like these ideas that I had, and I had this in high school about it, and we were pushing for it very hard. And unfortunately, I graduated. I couldn't go back to it. If I would, I'm sure that I would have achieved something from that.
And that's an interesting point too, because so prior to Doug Ford becoming the Premier of Ontario, that's what the Liberal government was trying to do at that time, is make mandatory classes specific to issues that affect Indigenous people, mandatory in all aspects of schooling. Destini, what you're from a small town.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of our communities, so if you think of 6 Nations of the Grand River, they're located next to these small towns. It almost feels like racism is way more prevalent with proximity to smaller communities. Not that you necessarily experience Indigenous specific racism, but what was that like for you? And tell our listeners, if you will.
So let me just tell you, when I started school, I was the only brown kid in my class. So I'll let you take that what you may with growing up in a small town, right? And my experience, personally, there was a feeling of that I don't fit in, I guess, if that's a way to put it. But just before I continue, I just wanted to bounce off of Miriam's point, if that's okay, just because she had me thinking. Growing up from literally kindergarten to finishing high school, when we did talk about Indigenous education, or when it was brought up, we always had just, today is Orange Shirt Day, right? And you would wear an orange shirt, but there was barely any context with it, especially growing up from elementary school. And I want to say it's just because a lot of teachers said this is very difficult to put on younger kids. It's a difficult conversation. Think about the Indigenous students who were in residential schools. That's beyond difficult. Sometimes I feel like we need to have difficult conversations. And who is it really difficult for? Is it really difficult for the students? Is it difficult for the teachers? Why can't we just break through that and have an actual conversation and learn? I mean, isn't that the whole point of education, is to learn and educate yourselves? Especially
One of the,
oh, sorry. No.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. My apologies.
No, I was just saying, like, I think what framed as a difficult conversation, we just need to continue having them. That's how we learn. That's how we break through. That's just one thing that I was thinking.
One of the talking points that is often used Indigenous communities is that if our children were able to go through these things, your children should be able to learn about the things that our children went through.
I agree with that 100%.
I've heard this in my Indigenous classes and in university from Dr. Bourgeois, Dr. Lynn, and Dr. Jennifer. We appreciate them teaching us. And the fun thing is that one thing I kind of like made me realize that these people say it's hard to put this out for kids, for people to know. But the kids who experienced it, for example, the very recent school that was closed in 1997, how about those kids? What are they going to go through? Like, that was in Saskatchewan. Like, imagine Saskatchewan residential schools in 1997. That's quite recent.
Yeah. People
from that years that was born, they know what life is. They're not kids yet right now. But if you ask them, do you know? And I'm sure a lot of people don't know the last school was closed in 1997.
No.
Not a lot of people know this.
Fun fact is a lot of Indigenous people don't know that either. So we would operate from the perspective, and I think we've said this numerous times on air, Carl, that the last school closed in 1996. And it wasn't until I was with CBC where I got rightfully corrected saying, no, Sean, you idiot. It was 1997.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we talk about like the luxury of life, that is the greatest luxury that exists, is where you were born. Right. By birth, I'm lucky not to have been born in a city or within a region of an area that practices these colonial type policies, taking children from their parents at such a young age.
And
I
back.
have to throw it in the mix here that we're actually down to our last couple minutes. So I definitely want to make sure that we're ending this segment with the voices of our student ambassadors of gender studies. I'm going to ask each of you, let's just say you pop into an elevator and I don't know, maybe it's Mark Carney, maybe it's the president of Brock University, maybe it is the president of a Fortune 500 company, and you've got 30 to 60 seconds to explain to them why you think there should be a change in the way that we talk about missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit Plus peoples. I'll ask you first, Destiny, for the sort of elevator pitch of how to frame this conversation in a better way.
I would honestly start with, this is still happening. This is an ongoing issue. And we need to see something. I mean, just as I brought up before, the 231 calls to justice, there needs to be something done. You need to listen. You need to hear these voices. You need to take this, I'm sorry if this sounds bad, but you need to take this seriously. No one is taking this seriously. I feel like, I'm not Indigenous myself, but I feel like we're screaming and you can't hear us. I need to see something.
Powerful. We're screaming and you can't hear us. That is an amazing, such an important message. Maryam, you have learned from Dr. Jennifer Brandt. You have learned from Dr. Robin Bourgeois. You have learned from Dr. Lynn Trudeau. You have your own life lessons. We've got just about a last minute left on the show. I want to give it to you to really, really make that pitch about how we need to be talking about this very important topic.
I just want to go off what Destiny said. It's just that we're screaming. They're not hearing us. It's not they're hearing us. They don't want to hear us. That's the thing. because white privilege is very, very high, that they do not want to hear anything but their own white people. It sounds harsh, but it's reality. Take it in, honey. It's not something that we're going to be offended by something. It's reality. Take it. Believe it or not, that's what it is. And second thing is that it should be an eye-opening experience for everybody. If I see Mark Carney at the elevator, first of all, I don't want to be in that elevator. Second, if I have to be there, first question will be, you were brought up with a silver spoon in your mouth. You don't know the reality of things that people go through about anything, especially Indigenous people. You don't know how it feels when your kids are taken away from you, because your kids go to school, high-end school with high-end people, rich, nothing going on with their life, all fine, all lovey-dovey, romantic lifestyle. But compare that to Indigenous school, the residential school that Indigenous kids had to go, maybe not go, they were forcibly sent there. So therefore, you don't know the reality of it. And maybe you should educate yourself a little bit and get some, because education is not only just going to school, getting 5 degrees and getting out. If you're not learning anything from it, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have. And same as our Doug Ford. That man does not have education.
Clearly.
And
What he's
I don't know
doing.
how is he, because again, his parents are rich, white, and he is rich and white, so he has the ability to go do whatever he likes. But at the end of the day, the government is being controlled by people who are using their white privileges, using their silver spoon, or at some point golden spoon they're using that, and going on with it. So I think it's time for us people to wake up and stand for our Indigenous brothers and sisters, because it's not only something that they go through. At some point that could happen to anybody else. If the original people of Canada are going through this, the other immigrants are nothing to go through this as well. So therefore, this would be my thing. Hear us.
I guarantee the listeners, viewers have not heard an interview like this before. Not possible if not for you. Thank you, Sean, Destiny, Maryam. I gotta call it. We're under time constraints, unfortunately. But thank you so much for visiting the program.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
us.